Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl. I'm your host, Tracee Gluhaich. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Hey Eileen, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm an inventor and a practitioner, and I make health products that kind of minimize our toxic exposure and help us eliminate them. Everything from what we breathe, what we drink, what we put on our skin. And I kind of got on that path. I tell people I'm in my fourth life in this life because I've done so many things. But it's because of my own health problems that I gravitated towards this, because I just didn't believe that my body couldn't heal itself. I just felt like it needed, as long as it had what it needed, it would be fine. So, I mean, I was born with doctors ripping my head out with forceps and my body being twisted. And every time I walked, my one knee rammed into the other. But it wasn't because my bones were out. It was just my whole, fascia and musculature. I mean, I had to wear special shoes. So I was in constant pain, my whole life. Then on top of that, I grew 9 inches in 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
Then I was ran over by a car in a parking lot. And then, just had super structural issues, and which led me to meet a special chiropractor who got me into spinal fitness and some of the inventions I have now because it restored my health. And I mean, back pain is a pretty big thing. Just in the United States, it's for low back pain, it's $100 billion a year industry. And a lot of people are taking hydrocodones and other pain pills, or they're having surgeries that are oftentimes unsuccessful. I mean, I bet you every listener has either had back pain at one time in their life or knows someone who has. And a lot of the products out there, reminders to stand up straight, or, somebody telling you, hold back your shoulders, just didn't seem to do it for me. So I got through that aspect. Then I developed allergies. I mean, I got the last time I had a filling in my mouth was when I was 20 years old, and it was a silver amalgam filling, and I fell sick. I mean, I became allergic to everything. I had all these problems. I mean, it's like, what didn't I have? My hair was falling out. I had psoriasis all over my body, candida really bad. I mean, my lungs would close up. I had to have an EpiPen. If I ate anything within 72 hours of the last time I ate it, I'd become allergic to it. It was just incredible. And then I realized, my dad was a machine and welding guy and had a motorcycle shop. So I'm breathing all the lead fumes from gasoline, and then I'm around welding fumes. And then in my first career of a nuclear power plant engineer, auditor, inspector, I'm out there around all these chemical exposures. And so I realized that medications and what they were telling, antihistamine me to death and be on antibiotics constantly, that just wasn't working for me. And so I was my own guinea pig. I tried, the Bernard Jensen colonic cleaning. I ate paleo before paleo existed back in the 80s. And, I just did anything I can think of. And I was my own worst enemy on some things because, I took a lot of calcium and magnesium because it helped me sleep. It got rid of my panic attacks. But then I started developing joint pain because it displaced minerals. It was out of balance and it went in there. And so then I came across laboratory hair analysis, kind of like a farmer does a soil test to figure out what kind of fertilizer to put on the ground. Because nitrogen doesn't raise nitrogen plants, nitrogen raises calcium. And same thing here, we have probably cabinets full of vitamins, and we take zinc because it's good for this, or we take this because it's good for that. But we all live on planet Earth, and really you move one mineral, they all move. Farmers know this, ranchers know this, but the wellness revolution has just kind of forgot about that. And so like taking zinc lowers sodium and raises potassium, and so there's all these things that, well, what if somebody's sodium's already too low? What kind of health problem are you giving by just randomly doing Russian roulette with your supplements? So then once I was on a guided program, my body started detoxifying like crazy. And you know how we feel crappy when we're detoxing, right? Hexheimer reactions, when things are circulating our blood, we could have every symptom aggravated and get worse, or new ones crop up. And then we're just like going, oh my gosh, if I could live through this to get well. So I started inventing gizmos so that we can detox and feel like Superwoman. And then I started my hobby into a business. I made that transition in 2010. And so it's been, 11 years, and now I've got 10 patents. I sell to 91 countries. I mean, I'm going to be 60 years old.
Wow, you look amazing.
Look at me, my pictures of me from 10 years ago, and look at me now. Well, yeah, I'm 30 pounds lighter. I have more muscle density. I don't have any problems. I feel fantastic, no pain. And so I'm into, lengthening my telomeres and anti-aging at the cellular level. And I've kind of figured out what works. And I'm having the time of my life. This is what I was really created and born to do.
That's so cool. Well, I'm excited to hear about your healing journey, because clearly, I mean, it sounds like you were a hot mess for, good 30 some years, right? And now look at you, you're vivacious and just like glowing. So how did you get there? Like, what was the first thing?
I started looking at things because of all the allergies and the rotation of the foods. And I knew it was leaky gut. I figured that out. So, you limit your carbohydrate intake, and you don't, as far as don't do over 100 carbs, basically eat meats and vegetables and stay away from anything with gluten and minimize your grains. And so I could control that. I mean, the doctors had me originally on nystatin, which isn't good, it doesn't go systemically. So I started taking a product called Homozone, which is ozonated magnesium, that when you activate it with hydrochloric acid, it floods your body with oxygen. So that helps keep.
Wow, that kills cancer cells too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and candida. And so that, and then the candida can't mutate against that oxygen. So then I learned about ozone. So I started drinking ozonated water, and that would help, purify, detoxify, but also keep the candida in check. And it wasn't until I started hair analysis that I really figured out the root problem, because I could never have a glass of wine or have a dessert without this huge flare. I mean, I'd be symptom free as long as I ate really good and all of that. But I felt like I had a ball and chain around my ankle. It's like, you just can't be a Girl Scout 100% of the time. And so when I realized, that the reason for candida in leaky gut is underactive endocrine system, because we're so stressed. People don't realize stress is temperature, it's toxins, it's nutrient depletion, besides the emotional or not getting enough sleep, or, all these kinds of things. And so a lot of us are born nutrient deplete and full of toxins from our mother, because all that from the mother is passed on from the placenta to the child. And so, I was just basically, a toxic mess. And when I realized that stressed from the hair analysis, I could tell that my thyroid was way underactive. I mean, at one time I had Hashimoto's and my thyroid was slow. And then my adrenal glands were so slow. And so my pattern also showed that I would just push myself to the point of exhaustion. It's like whipping the dead horse to run the race, which then further depletes your body of zinc and potassium and sodium. So I was just like in this mode where I was going to totally crash, and I hadn't gotten there yet. And what happens when your adrenal glands are insufficient or, exhausted, you don't make enough hormones. And so copper, it's in the food that we eat. Women always have more copper than men because it's a more feminine mineral, and there's a lot of xenoestrogens out there, and copper follows estrogen. When our cycles rise, or estrogen rises, or copper rises. And so, but the problem with the adrenal gland, the stress, we live in the 21st century. I mean, look at the younger generation slugging down energy drinks and coffee and staying up, and that just basically causes the copper that we do have to no longer be bound to the protein. So it becomes bio-unavailable. So it becomes toxic. So that's what causes anxiety, headaches, insomnia, moodiness, menstrual problems, that kind of thing. And so we've got probably 80% of people I test on hair test have a zinc copper imbalance. So it's like you got toxic copper, but it's a conundrum because you got all this copper, but you have a copper deficiency because you don't have enough bioavailable copper. And that bioavailable copper is what kills candida and keeps it in check. So the real root of this problem was not this diet. That doesn't fix anything. That just keeps your symptoms under control and lets you live without having to take all these medications. But I was after the fix. So I had to rebuild my adrenal glands. And so there's a ratio on the hair test. It's a zinc copper ratio. Ideal's 8. Mine was 38.
Oh my gosh.
The highest I've ever seen is only one other person in doing hair analysis on thousands of clients, in 91 countries. I've only seen one other ratio higher than mine. That's how bad it was. And so I could tell from my symptoms in my body what that zinc copper ratio was before I even got my test results. It took me almost 3 years to get it down to 10. Now I bounce between 6, 8, 10, 6, 8, 10, right along in there. And, and then I can eat stuff. Of course, I'm not an advocate of eating sugar and excessive alcohol or anything like that, but it's nice to be able to eat something. And my allergies are totally gone. I don't have any allergies. But that was a turning point as far as getting that gut. Now we know the microbiome and everything else. It's like it's responsible for like 70% of our immune function. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important to get, that balanced. And there's so many people with candida problems, especially women who have underactive, thyroid and adrenal glands. And, it's just all interconnected. And so taking a bunch of antifungals, sometimes you have to do that, to get by. But, there's a transition. And then, people with that problem are usually constipated, and then people will take excess magnesium. Well, magnesium lowers sodium. Remember how I told you about how everything counterbalances? So then that suppresses adrenal gland function. So when I first started this, it's like I had to wean myself off of all that extra magnesium that I was taking. As far as that oxymag, once it gets activated, it's no longer magnesium. So that's not. But really, now we know we got to change our gut biome by providing soluble and insoluble fiber. We need to quit eating so many raw vegetables because, you know, look in the toilet, how much of that did you really digest? You didn't get the minerals out of that. So we need to have, you know, more Japanese type style vegetables, you know, restore, you know, that gut flora. And so,
Like what? What do you mean by Japanese style vegetables?
well, they lightly steam them.
Oh, okay.
So it's easier for you to masticate, you know, because digestion starts in the mouth. You know, a lot of people are rushed and have inadequate peristalsis action anyway, because if you're stressed and not in the sympathetic, you know, how many people are standing up and just eating on the go? How many people are out there that only eat once or twice a day? You know, that's reducing adrenal gland activity. You know, we need to eat multiple times a day and, you know, to try to take the stress off of the body. I mean, a lot of people, you know, there's chelation to detoxify. Well, chelation does not remove the reason why your body used the junkyard part in the first place. You know, and so, and chelation is non-discriminatory. It takes the good minerals out with the bad, and already our good minerals are low. And so when I got off the chelation, because there's natural chelators and then there's synthetic drug chelators, but all that does not fix the root. Here I am trying to get at the root so my body can rebuild itself. And so I then realized, okay, so I got to do things to increase circulation, increase lymph, increase sweating, because it's shown that, I mean, sympathetic exercise, the sweat is mainly mineral loss, hardly any toxins. But you get in the parasympathetic mode and sweat, it is full of toxins. So, you know, I was doing sauna therapy and feeling much better, but it was the far infrared. And there was a doctor that was telling me, oh yeah, near infrared is the way to go. And I thought it was prejudice, really, until I went on a trip and I decided, okay, I'm going to get me a near infrared sauna with the heat lamp bulbs. And I'm going to try that. So day one, I thought, well, gee, I'm not sweating as much. Day two, I sweat more. By day three, I was sweating buckets like in a far infrared. But I had this energetic feeling come over me like I never experienced before. And also with the mental clarity and everything else. And my son was going to the University of Washington at the time, taking biology and chemistry classes. And I'm going, son, what is this? What's, you know, the science behind this? And he sent me all kinds of stuff about phototherapy and how the near infrared activates the mitochondria in the cell to make ATPs. So you can give your body a leg up, because normally you have to eat food and digest it to make ATP. This you shine a light on and you're getting an energy boost, you know?
Wow.
And then, you know, at the time, you know, the near infrared saunas had like canvas tent, no R value, you know, it wouldn't get as hot. So then, you know, of course, I had this thought about light travels at the speed of light. Let's keep all that goodness inside, bombarding our skin so we can have maximized phototherapy. So I came up with radiant panels, which also block EMF. It's like my sauna is the safest place you can be in your house, especially now with 5G and everything. But it like has R12 insulation. So with no preheat, you'll sweat twice as much in half the time. And it's the shunting of the blood because it's hottest towards the light. So you get to rotate. So it doubles the circulation effect. So that was huge in increasing my flexibility, reducing the pain, and, you know, just spot weight loss. When I created my hot yoga near infrared sauna and started doing movement under the lights, I mean, in the last year and a half, I've lost 30 pounds and contoured my body. I was like, some of my clothes were size 14. I am a size 6 now. And I, you know, I'm stronger. But it was a whole process of not doing anything radical, you know, as far as that goes. You know, dry skin brushing before getting in the sauna activates the lymph, and that was good. Going in there doing movement. I mean, I still was drinking the ozonated water. But just, you know, everything, there's all kinds of things that were, you know, added to my journey as I learned, because I constantly read, I'm constantly learning, I'm wanting, you know, more information, you know, good science. And a lot of us eat like a more acidic diet, you know, and a lot of people have an imbalance there. And I met this Korean acupuncturist who had the most expensive salt in the world. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna try that. But then he had all these sea salts that I was, you know, rotating between, you know, all my favorites.
Which ones?
Oh, like the Redmond salt, the Himalayan salt, the Hawaiian salt, you know, there's just all kinds of different ones that he had there. And he put them in there, and they were all with a pinch, the water remained acid. And then his salt he put in there, the healthy salt, it turned alkaline. I go, okay, I got to do this. So what I did is I cut a 1/2 inch length of hair from my scalp, and I analyzed it. So then I added in the healthy salt for 1 month every day. Then I took another hair sample. Then I waited 30 days. And then I did another sample. Then I started again. So I repeated this cycle about 6 times to see what are those minerals doing to my body. Then I had the salt analyzed, because I had so many toxins coming out of my body, and all my endocrine system started working better. Everything improved when I was on the salt. So I wanted to make sure that the salt didn't have all that junk in it that was coming out, and tested it, and it's 10.72 pH, 20% minerals. Like the healthy salt got 6,800 parts per million magnesium in a serving. Himalayan salt and the other salts, 1 part per million. You know, the packaging on all this sea salt makes you think like you're getting mineralized. It's like the best ever. And bottom line is it's trace. It's like, and the other thing, because I really got into this, analyzing all the certificate mineral analysis of the salt sold, and realized also the pH of the salt, like Himalayan salt, you know, because there was this book that came out to make your salt water Soleil, and take the Soleil and how great it was for you. I think that book was in 2003. Of course, I tried that too. But the ORP, okay, the longer Himalayan salt is in water, the lower the pH goes, so it's acidic. And the higher the ORP, so it's inflammatory. I literally, after I read all the certificate mineral analysis and realized all that, I threw away all of my pink salt.
Oh, girl, you have got me junk. You've got me like fired up. Like, okay, so for me and the listeners, the first step is, because now I have to do everything, of course. So is the first step a hair mineral analysis? Yeah, and they can go to wellnessshoppingonline.com and get the cheapest one. It's a profile too. Don't go with the more expensive one. It's a different company. But the one that I recommend is Trace Elements, and it's very informative. And if they want to have a consult with me and, you know, get my customized pattern report, they can pay extra for that. But it's a comprehensive kind of like, eat more of this, eat less of that. I'm never 100% on the diet. You know, I just try to do general principles, because life keeps lifing. And if it's something that's so restrictive that I can't do, I'm not going to do it. And bottom line is, when people take the supplements and try to do better than they are, just a little bit of change,
they get tremendous results. It's not necessary to be a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout on everything they say to do, because I think it's impossible with our lives to live that way.
Yeah.
And then if somebody was going to say, Eileen, I'm only going to do one thing, what would you recommend? I'd say do a daily coffee enema. We could do a whole show just on the benefits of coffee enema. And now I have a gizmo, of course, that takes away everyone's excuse, because it's a stand-up, no mess, easy, no laying down, no having the mess go everywhere. Just use it in the shower. And when you're ready to eliminate, jump on the toilet. And people can listen to my programs on all the benefits of coffee enema. I mean, it just fills your bloodstream with free radical scavengers. It increases glutathione production 600%. It turns on enzyme systems. It changes the pH of your intestinal tract with all the extra bile so that the good bacteria survive more, and it's hard for the bad stuff to live. I mean, it reduces pain. That's my favorite story, even though it was written about in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
You know about those?
Yes. Oh, of course.
Oh
All
my
the
gosh.
Apocrypha and all the different things. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love you. Like, this was a blessing to have you on my show. Like, oh gosh. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry. What coffee do you use? What kind of coffee?
Well, there's this coffee revolution, and in every town, there's someone getting green organic beans that'll roast it for you that you can pick up the next day. And so if you can't do that to get like really fresh, and I like the dark roast because it's more yawn, you get more detoxification out of it. And it's got plenty of caffeine, unlike the light roast, which is more caffeinated. It's got plenty of caffeine and palmitic acid to do the effect. So that's, what I recommend. There's also a new coffee brand out there called Purity, where they test it for all the mycotoxins and all that kind of stuff as well. Because a lot of people, it's not that they're allergic to coffee, they have a problem with coffee. It's the mold toxicity or the whatever else that's in the coffee that was roasted a year ago, that's in the warehouse that they're buying now. There's a lot of methods to make the coffee, like I was taught, do the boil method. Well, it's like, oh my gosh, strain all that and all that extra work, So when I first started out, my husband, when he was alive at that time, I just used part of his coffee from the coffee maker. But then since then, I've become a connoisseur, and I love the stainless steel percolator. And then you can just take your glass jar from the kit, fill about that much water, and then put in some hot coffee, and then the thing is lukewarm, tepid, perfect temperature, and then just screw on the pump apparatus, and then you stand in the shower. You pump however much, like I usually pump in half of that, and I just take a nice long shower. And then I will massage my stomach, because it has a pump. You don't have to lay on your side, and then hurt your knees or your back, and then get up and have coffee, fecal mess go everywhere because you don't have the muscle control. I mean, if you just go sit on the toilet and eliminate and jump back in the shower and do it again. And it's just easy.
Sorry, how long does this whole process take you? I mean, you're a pro, so it's going to take the rest of us a little longer, but.
Well, the magic time to hold that in your, rectum and in your, intestinal tract is 12 minutes. So I always give people the 2-week coffee enema challenge, because they're not going to be able to hold it that long. I mean, maybe 1 minute and they're going to be running to the toilet. I said, that's fine. Just refill whatever it is. By the end of 2 weeks, you'll be able to do it. Hitler's army was cut off from supplies. They were operating on soldiers without pain pills or anesthesia. And it became so famous, the doctor would always order a plain water enema. And one of the nurses started dumping coffee in the enema buckets, because after all, it kept the doctors going 24/7. But what happened is their pain almost but vanished. It became so famous that 3 universities at the time in Europe started studying. They started putting coffee water up rats' rectums and finding out what is going on. University of Vienna, for instance, they found that all the caffeine and palmitic acid left the anal canal in 12 minutes. And it went up the portal vein, which, like, if you go pull up a tomato plant, the roots, you know, that's like the vein all hooked along our intestinal tract that goes up to the liver. So then all that just goes up the portal vein to the liver and causes the bile ducts to open and just massively produce bile to trap toxins, change the pH of the intestinal tract, increase glutathione production 600%. By the way, anybody who was forced and got the vaccine with the graphene nanoparticles, there's a study out there that if you have adequate levels of glutathione, it doesn't activate all that inflammation. So, hey, just quit drinking coffee and put it at the other end and get your free glutathione boost and protect yourself from inflammation, you know? Typically, people, when they start their hair analysis with me, you know, it takes 3 weeks to get the results back. And, you know, I try to get people to do the coffee enema. There was a husband and wife team where he said, oh, I'll do it. And he was on different medications for depressant and allergies, and he just had all these problems with sleeping and all this, just like a laundry list of problems. And so when they come back for their results, he's all smiling. 80% of his problems are gone just from doing the coffee enema. And I'm going like, okay, take your supplements slow. They say to take them 3 times a day. Don't do it. Only once a day, because your body's going to like think it won the lottery. You're going to detoxify more than you've experienced before. You know, and don't go faster because you feel fantastic, because it'll hit you. And we got to make sure your body's cleaning itself up fast enough, because we don't do the binders and things like that. And he goes, I'll just do 2 coffee enemas in a day. I'll be fine.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So with that said, do you think it's better to do the hair analysis after you do the 2-week coffee enemas, so then you can see what's left to deal with?
Well, the thing about hair analysis is it's just what was circulating in your blood, ½ inch is 30 days. So we'd have to cremate your whole body, which we're not going to do, to know your total body load. And so really, I say just it's always the right time to start hair analysis. It's good to find out your baseline, where you're at before you do anything, or whatever you're doing, get a hair analysis to see what's going on. Like, I had a massage therapist who couldn't work. Her hands, her knuckles and everything were just swollen, and she couldn't use her hands. And her naturopathic doctor had recommended all this stuff to take. And when we got her hair analysis, her sodium potassium ratio was like an 8 point something or other. Ideal is 2.5. And if I have a 4 or more, I will have joint pain. I will have pain in my body. And it's just extreme inflammation, because the cells are not opening and closing at the right frequency to let out metabolic waste and take nutrients in. So there's like this internal cellular inflammation going on with the high ratio. And so then I'm looking at what she's doing, and she's like taking 10,000 units of vitamin C a day, which is a sodium stimulator. I said, that is out of balance. That's way too much. These supplements have vitamin C in them with everything else at a more appropriate dose. So stop that, start these. And within 3 months, she could close her hands and didn't have pain and the swelling in her joints. Within 6 months, it was totally gone, and she was back to work. All because she was taking too much vitamin C.
Wow,
well, vitamin C is good for us, but we got to think balance, everything in balance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, Eileen, you're cool. I have more questions, obviously, because you've given me so much information. So what about the salt? What kind of salt is it? How can we get it? I do the same as you. I do a combination of the Redmonds and the pink salt. and I just mixed them all together, and that's what I use.
Right. Yeah. So what I do is, after reviewing everything, I use the healthy salt. It comes in a little jar and it's powerful. You start with just what balances on a toothpick in a glass of water and do that once a day. That's where you start. Eventually, you'll work up to a little scooper that we give you 3 times a day, but don't start there, because your body is going to go, oh, all these minerals, the 10.72 pH and the negative charge, because it's going to expand exclusion zone water. So your body makes more hydroelectricity, and it's going to clean up molecular debris in your cells. And so you start slow. And that it's like a fine powder. And so it's the lowest sodium salt in the world. So it's not appropriate for salting your food. I mean, I've been at a restaurant and I didn't have my little sea salt packet. So I would put a pinch of this on there, but like if the wind's blowing, it blows away. It's such a fine powder of minerals. And, you put it on your steak and it just like disappears, because it absorbs, But out of the other salts, the one that has the best profile of mineral content, pH, least toxins, is the Baja Gold salt. So I sell that by the pound. So I use that for cooking. And then I use this for electrolyte, especially before a sauna.
Tell me about the near infrared sauna, or like what does that look like?
It's an incandescent bulb, like a heat lamp if you go to a food buffet. But the heat lamp bulbs that come with our sauna have a different spectrum of light than just the standard cheapie that you use on a buffet. It has more of the therapeutic range. It's like 550 to 3400, but most of the peak is, the near infrared. So you're getting near, mid, and far infrared light with it. And the difference is in a typical far infrared, is 3000 nanometers and more. And all it does is heat the water molecules up in your body. It does not activate your mitochondria at the cell level to produce ATP. Now, since like Hope for Cancer only recommends incandescent bulb near infrared saunas, cancer.gov is shining near infrared light on inoperable tumors. There's all this new research about how great near infrared is. So now all these sauna companies, they're like freaking out because they're far infrared. A lot of them were high EMF for years. Now they're getting the EMF under control. But to say that they're full spectrum now, they're putting these little tiny LED lights in there that hardly emit any frequencies that actually interact with the skin surface of your body and penetrate. But now they can say they're full spectrum, but they're almost useless as far as really having that activation and a deep concentration of the near infrared. And so besides the cellular activation, the near infrared incandescent bulb saunas are not the same temperature everywhere. Like normally in a far infrared sauna, you got heaters behind you, below you, to the sides, and it's the same temperature everywhere. What if it's hot, but it's hottest towards the bulbs? Your body adapts. It's got this balance it has to maintain. So it will shunt the blood towards the lights, and it vasculates your tissues on the surface of the skin so that water can escape the bloodstream and form sweat. So literally, it's so weird. You'll begin sweating on one side of your body. And then,
oh, wow, that is weird. Where do you make them?
I have the patent on them, and right now I'm having them made in a UL licensed factory actually in China. They've been making them for me since 2013. They make all the light fixtures for like Home Depot and Lowe's, and for like all the Wyndham resorts. They've been around for many, many years. And so in America, unfortunately, the factory would charge me 3 times as much to make it, and they'd be importing the materials to make it because they're not made in the US. So it's like, you know, what do I do? You know, it's a hard thing, you know, and so, but your body, you know, when it's sweating on one side, what you do to double the circulation is you wipe down the sweat, because that's what cools you down, is having water on the surface of your skin. So have a small towel, wipe it down, then rotate the opposite direction. Then your body shunts the blood back towards the light, and pretty soon you're just drenching sweat. Like in my sauna, you literally sweat twice as much in half the time, no preheat.
And then how do you do yoga in it? Is it massively huge?
It's 120 centimeters by 240 by 196. So that translates to just within a fraction of an inch, 3 feet by 7'11" by 6'5". And I also have a height extension kit that I've been asked for because of professional basketball players and the larger football and baseball players that have my sauna, because they want to stand up, they want to, you know, raise up their arms to do a full yoga practice. So we have a height extension kit that we're going to be having soon for that. That will dictate they have to use 2 lamps in one of the saunas. But we have 2 sauna tents that, I mean, even the big one has an internal partition that you can cut it in half so you can do the sit down, stand up. It's got a drop ceiling. I mean, with double lamps, the biohackers are getting 190 degrees in there.
Girl, you are something. I have to say, I am so impressed. What, I mean, wow. That's amazing.
I just keep on getting dreams. I mean, it's like I was on an airplane. So it was a lucid dream because I wasn't asleep and I wasn't awake. And I saw this little gizmo on my tray table, and everyone else was coughing and getting sick, and I was breathing safe. So I named it the Breathe Safe. So
What is it?
It's a plasma generator. So it kills pathogens in the air, fills it with oxygen, it gets rid of volatile organic compounds, but it causes your body to sweat twice as much, the volume, when you're in a sauna, because you're inhaling more than 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter, and your humidified toxic sweat gets cleaned up so you're not rebreathing it.
But you said like the number 1 most important thing is coffee enema. What's number
Right.
2, 3, 4? Like what
The
order?
The healthy salt,
Uh-huh.
the hair analysis, and then, of course, what are you putting on your skin? Women are exposing themselves to over 500 chemicals in all the body care products. So we have a whole body care line so you can nourish your skin that is naturally non-toxic, anti-aging. And so, you know, switch up that so you can minimize the toxins you're putting in. The Breathe Safe increases background oxygen levels 70 to 118%. I mean, it's cleaning up, it's making your air safe. I mean, read the reviews on the skincare. They're all 5-star. Read the reviews on the Breathe Safe, how it's like, I mean, I can't even say what people are saying because it's medical claims. And then if you can, do the near infrared sauna.
The Breathe Safe, is that something that you put one in every room in your house? Or, I mean, how do you implement that?
Yes, and it'll work on a power bank, you know, that you charge your cell phone on. So you could actually put it in a crossbody satchel. So people who are chemically sensitive or who has asthma can walk around and not have reactions and troubles breathing. There's people sleeping with this in bed, with the oxygen sensor going from 88 to 93% oxygen just by laying it like that and sleeping with it. There's people going from mouth breathing to nose breathers because it just cleans up the breathing pathways. You know, you can take it with you, you can put it at your desk. And like, because it doesn't have a fan, I couldn't get a CDAR rating. but my office is like 15 foot by 16 foot at work. When I have my door closed and people come in there, they go, wow, it smells so fresh in here. What do you have? And I said, I have a brief safe and I have my ionic refreshers plugged into an outlet. Now these kill bacteria 90% in the air, which is more effective than the brief safe at like 48%. It doesn't make oxygen, but with a combination of both my brief safe and this, it's like, man, I'm breathing really clean air.
Wow, that would be a great Christmas present to put in your bedroom. But I have got to run, and Eileen, I'll be in touch. I definitely want to do a hair analysis, but clearly my hair is colored. Does that matter?
No, just before you color it, what you do is you just lift up, and then we mow a small strip, you know.
Okay.
And then that way you can find it and mow the same spot when you do a retest, you know, so you're not sacrificing your hair all the time. Like I'll have a short spot back here, but I know where
the top covers it.
Yeah, the top covers it.
Okay, so just find the spot in the middle so it doesn't mess up your ponytail too.
Yeah, I always like go from ear to ear like this, and then lift up, and then, you know, mow a spot. So I have a little tiny short spot right here because I just cut mine, you know, just recently.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It has been an absolute joy speaking with you.
Well, we'll have to go over more subjects. We have so much to talk about.
Yes, deal. It's a date. Okay, that was super fun, you guys. I absolutely adored talking to her, and she will be back. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please share it with a friend who can be inspired to change their life. Bye for now.